Guys, the state of relationships between intimate partners, romantic partners in America is abysmal. Okay, so we have a super high divorce rate. It's assumed these days that your parents are no longer together, and if you find someone, a couple that has been together for a long time, for many decades, then it's something that people are shocked to hear, and they praise it because it's so rare. I want to say that there is a reason why relationships break, and there is a way to fix them. I believe I know what that way is to fix them. I don't have the practical experience of running a couples counseling practice, but I have been studying psychology for 40 years now outside of academia, through alternative modalities, looking for whatever works and looking for root causes to things. And I think I have an understanding of what breaks most relationships and how to repair them. And so that's what I want to talk about here at a high level, at a high, not as an experienced counselor, but as kind of a researcher, as a theoretical model. And I think this model is really important. And if you combine it with a couples counseling practice or a therapy practice, I think it could have a huge impact on your ability to save relationships. Also, if you're in a relationship and it's not going well, then this is especially for you. If you've been in a relationship for years where the communication has not been functional, and one or both of you have lost your ability to have real communication with each other, where you tell them what's not working and what is working, and they can hear that and acknowledge it and acknowledge their role in it, and also tell you what they feel is not working and what is working, and you can acknowledge it and see what you're doing that's playing a part in that. If both of you can do that, then you don't have any problems, and this video isn't for you. That's what I call functional communication. And if any part of that is missing, then you don't have functional communication. If, for example, you can praise your partner, but you can't tell them what they're doing that bothers you, then you don't have a functional relationship. You have a hope and a dream that things will last, and as you slowly grow apart, because there's not real intimacy, there's not real connection. There is a pretense, a pretending that's going on. Or if you are able to tell your partner what they're doing that bothers you, but they can't hear it because they're just too offended. It's just too painful for them to look and say, yeah, I'm a human being and I make mistakes, and here's a way that I've been making a mistake with my beloved partner, and I need to acknowledge that because she's bringing it to me, and I need to say, you're right, I'm so sorry I've been doing that. Tell me more about it. Can you give me some more examples of when I do that? I really want to get it. I really want to see myself in this way, because it's not my intention to hurt you there. I've been doing something unconsciously, and I'm glad you're bringing it to me. So let's fix this together. Tell me more about it. I really want to ground into it, and then figure out how to change it. So if they're not able to do that with you, then you don't have a functional relationship. You have a hope and a prayer and a dream. And that dream is going to crash into a brick wall known as reality at one point or another down the road. It either crashes, that's like having a heart attack, or it dies a slow, agonizing death. That's sort of like getting cancer. But one of those two is in the cards. Or you also have the zombie relationship, where you stay together for the rest of your lives, but you're both zombies. There's no genuine intimacy. And when there's no intimacy, another word for that is authenticity. There cannot be intimacy without authenticity. Those are synonyms. There cannot be true love without authenticity, which is also intimacy. There cannot be truth. All of these things go together. They're not separate things in a relationship. They're all part of the package. And if any one of those things is going, then they're all going. And that means your relationship is going. If that's happening to you, or it's been happening, or you're deep into it, there is a way to get it back. And so that's what this video is about. You can only get it back if both partners are willing to go there. And so that is a hard one, because there's partners that are not going to be willing to go there. When you reach that place where you realize that your partner's not going to be willing to go there, then you have two options. The slow agonizing death path, where your resentment grows, the bitterness grows, you're leaking it out at your partner all the time, maybe through passive aggression, doing little things that annoy them, or you're doing it, you're leaking it out by actually, verbally assaulting them and yelling at them, which doesn't work. When someone's not going to go there, they're definitely not going to go there that way. And trust me, I've tried that, and it doesn't work. If there's no way to reach them, then you have that choice of the agonizing, slow, ongoing death, or you can grab life again and leave that person and become a new person. And that can be very, very painful and disruptive, and I would never tell anyone to do that, but those are your two options, becoming alive again, grabbing life by the hair of the head and living it, which might mean that you're alone, and being alone isn't the end of the world. And you can find someone new who has the qualities that are needed for an intimate, genuine, loving relationship. There's a lot of people out there, but yeah, that's a tough one. And it's where a lot of people will end up. That's going to be the fork in the road that this brings them to. If you do break up, it's going to hurt, but it's not going to hurt forever. It can hurt for up to a year, It can be really intense in the first few months, and then it slowly gets better, like 1 teaspoonful at a time. The pain goes away 1 teaspoonful at a time. I'm going to have to put my sunglasses on because the sun is coming out from behind the tree. But the pain doesn't last forever in that situation. And it's actually shorter. It's shorter and more acute than the pain of staying with someone who's not meeting you in authenticity, in open-heartedness, in true love. True love is willing to feel the pain of hearing critical feedback from other people. If our partner's giving us critical feedback, if we love them, then we hear it. We don't run away from it. Because love doesn't run away from a momentary pain. That's called pride, that's called ego. That's called insecurity. That's called I need a therapist to figure out why I can't look at this. That's what that is. It's not love. It can hurt, but it won't hurt forever to break up. But staying with someone who can't meet you, that is the real pain. It's chronic pain, not acute pain. But if you add up all the chronic pain of year after year after year, assuming they don't dump you, because there's a very high chance of that. If you're not feeling good in the relationship, they aren't either, most likely. And if the spark is gone for you, the spark is gone for them. If you're pretending to be in a relationship with them, then they're pretending, most likely. And if you hang in there for the long haul, there's no guarantee that they're going to hang in there. they have an affair, or that's usually what happens. Or in some other way, they just make the relationship so unbearable that you finally leave. So that's the more painful path, I think, if we're being honest and we're looking at the big picture. So I can tell you how to fix the relationships, but we have to be real and acknowledge that some people will refuse to let them be fixed. And that will bring the relationship to a close. And so that's the danger of what I'm going to tell you. But keep in mind, the relationship was already dead. It's just that you guys weren't facing it yet. Let's do a hypothetical. Suppose a couple comes into my practice, and I'm going to use this technique I'm about to teach you on them. The first thing I would do would be to ask them both to sign a contract up front. I would warn them that in order to save and heal their relationship, both of them, will need to start doing two things. One, telling the truth to the other. Two, listening to the truth from the other. And when I'm saying telling and listening, I mean the full telling and the full listening. Listening meaning letting it in, letting it land, not going into outrage and upset and defenses and you cannot, I will not hear this. I will not stand for this. That's not listening. Both parties have to do this, not just one. And I'll tell you right up front, it's gonna be painful. This is you're giving birth here. This is painful, but it will only be painful temporarily. But yes, in the beginning, can be extremely painful. And in fact, the more painful it is, the shorter lived that pain will be. It will quickly come down in intensity. But those first seconds can be the most agonizing seconds. It feels like the whole universe is exploding and you're dying. It's fake. It's smoke and mirrors. You're not dying. You're just feeling something. And it's okay. You take a breath and you stay open and you just let it flow, and then you keep going deeper. And then the pain starts to wane. You have to be able to go through this pain in order to get the prize at the end. And there's a huge prize at the end. It's called love. It's called genuine connection, genuine intimacy. The thing that it's almost mythical. The falling in love more and more with your partner every day instead of falling out of love with them more and more. That's the prize. And it sounds heavy, right? Everything I'm saying so far sounds super heavy, super unpleasant. And of course it is. It is heavy. And do you know what else is heavy? People destroying the most precious relationships in their lives because they don't want to feel some temporary pain that are coming 99% from something that's already happened in the past. That's what's heavy. It's heavy when people don't want to confront their own psychological shadow material, all the stuff that they've been hiding from themselves and from other people. All that stuff is memories, made out of memories and feelings. And it's covered over with pride and embarrassment and all this other stuff there's nothing real there. That's what's heavy, is living a life letting those shadows rule you. Living a life where you don't use the voice that God gave you, the voice from your heart that tells what it's really thinking and feeling. That's where the true heaviness lies. And yes, unpacking that is pretty dang heavy. It's gonna get heavy. I would expect really intense, really uncomfortable, really messy sessions, interactions there. But when a relationship is dying on the operating table, man, you gotta pull out the paddles, jumpstart the heart, you gotta pull out the scalpel, you gotta be willing to get messy. Platitudes are not gonna save it. Live, laugh, love, scented candles, affirming each other's goodness, lovey-dovey, that won't work. You are putting lipstick on a pig when you're trying to cover over the problem. Haven't you already done that 1,000,000 times? And covering over a problem doesn't make it go away. And we know this. We have to stop covering. We have to uncover the problem and go right into it and go through it and come out the other side. And that's what healing is. That's exactly what healing is. When a relationship is dying a slow, agonizing death of 1,000,000 cuts, discomfort is needed, and you need to lean into it. You need to accept. Both parties have to accept up front, this is going to get uncomfortable and painful at times. And we're going to lean into it until we solve the problem. And we're going to learn how to solve this problem, and then we'll be able to solve any problem. And in doing so, we're going to come together and be so much more close. Now, the truth is most couples counselors don't want to do this. I know because I've been in sessions with several couples counselors across several relationships, and they don't want snot and anger and yelling and discomfort and red faces and accusations, and they don't want to deal with that. They're like the rest of us. They don't want ruffled feathers. They want everyone to feel good. They want everyone to remain calm. They want to stay in control, and it can get scary for them if things start getting really big, when all these huge pent-up emotions start coming out. It can feel like they can start to feel like they're losing control. They can feel like, we're going to have these two people storming out of my office, never to return. This is not how I grow my business. This is not how I get word of mouth that I'm a great therapist. I get that from sitting back, remaining calm, keeping everyone calm, and calmly discussing things, and calmly nothing ever changes. Because calm, when it's authentic, is great, but calm when it's covering over a volcano is not great. That doesn't help anyone. That's not healing. That's abandonment in my mind. That is couples counselors abandoning the couple with their problems because it makes them uncomfortable to do that messy work. And the reason it's uncomfortable for them to go there is because they haven't gone there themselves. That's the truth of the matter. If you haven't done messy work, then seeing other people doing messy work is going to freak you out. And it's going to look really bizarre, unless it's being done really skillfully with a skillful facilitator that's setting the scene so that it doesn't freak you out too bad. Even then, it'll freak out a lot of people. If we've been holding everything down inside, screwing the lid on of our own repressed material, when we see other people bringing out their repressed material, especially if it's the same kind of repressed material, it's going to freak us out. We're going to want to run out of the room, literally want to run, or ridicule them, or say something to shut it down, make them stop. Couples counselors will do this. Just when a couple is starting to get real and authentic and really start to use their real authentic voice, a couples counselor can get nervous and actually interject and try to bring it back up into the intellect instead of in the gut, in the belly and the heart. Get it up here, get it all conceptual again, so everyone calms down and these emotions aren't in any danger of being released or expressed, so that they can move on and the couple can reset and get clear inside. It happens all the time. If two people promise to face down whatever illusory demons they have stuffed in the closet to save the relationship, then yes, it can be saved and it will be saved. It's not mysterious, There's real reasons, real things that break a relationship and real things that save them. Okay, so how do we actually do it? The first thing we do is we start by getting the clients to start telling the truth to each other. And it needs to be I mean, maybe they want to start with the mild ones, but eventually we got to get to the ugliest ones, the ones that are the real linchpin of the disconnection. We got to get the people to go deep and get real with each other. Everything they've been holding inside, every unspoken resentment needs to be put on the table and dealt with one by one. Not rushing over, not flipping to the other side before we've finished dealing with this one. But starting with the ugliest ones is great, because then you start making really fast progress, and the smaller ones will just almost evaporate when you even look at them. Once you get into the flow of this type of healing, this type of releasing, this type of bringing our voice and our being back into alignment with truth with our partner, and they're doing it too, man, it can go really fast, and it can get really exciting, because you can feel the life rushing back into the relationship, the spark, the polarity of the energy rushing back in. You will have it's counterintuitive, but the uglier you go in the session, the more adoration you're going to see in their eyes when it's over, when they've cleared it. The more love, the more they're going to be looking at each other going, oh my God, there's the person I fell in love with. I feel like I'm seeing their soul. And you are, because you moved all that shit out of the way. And there's nothing in the way now of the soul. No masks, no closet doors. You're seeing all the way down, but there's gonna be ugliness before you get there, so be prepared. So you have to make those unspoken resentments spoken. Or perhaps they have been spoken, but your partner never heard them and acknowledged them and owned their piece of them. And that is such an indispensable thing. If your partner is telling you something over and over and you keep brushing it off and blowing it off because you don't want to hear it and you don't think it's true, you gotta find it, man. You gotta find some way that it's true. Maybe even a hair, not even a whole body or even a leg or an arm or a hand, just one single hair of truth in it. If you can find one single hair, you need to own that hair. Own that hair 1,000,000% all the way, and let them know that you're owning it and that you're taking it seriously. And if that triggers something for you, you can deal with that next. Okay? You should deal with it next. But first, one thing at a time. Own it. And let them know you own it. And say, yeah, I can find that. I can see that I've done that. I can also see that you've tried to tell me this, and I've pushed you away, and I've denied that I was doing it. And that was like adding insult to injury. That was like, not only did I do this thing to you, but then when you came to me for help with it, I pushed you away. I shunned you. I told you were crazy, or you're making stuff up, or you're a liar, or you're trying to manipulate me by blaming me, and whatever it might have been. There's all sorts of crafty things we do when we're trying to blow someone off, right? Blow off feedback. Another big one that we do is we collapse into being a victim. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's my childhood. Blah, 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 blah. It's not about you in that moment. You can be you next. So one at a time. If they're bringing a hurt to you, it's about them. What you should be doing is making amends, not explaining your childhood to them, collapsing into victimhood, or getting outraged and defending it or pushing it all away. All that stuff is useless in that situation. A good couples counselor will call that behavior out if they see it. This is all defensive behavior. A good couples counselor will gently but skillfully get the clients to move deeper than that defensive stuff. If they don't, then they're abandoning you with it. If they're not willing to push a little bit right there, then they're not really an ally. They're not really standing up for you or standing up for the truth in that moment. And if they're not standing up for the truth, what the heck are you doing there? Paying them money to sit there looking smart and calm. So you get the couple to speak, no matter how painful and scary it is, and you get the other side to hear and acknowledge it. Acknowledge the places where they do that, no matter how small, because it's usually not small. No matter how painful it is for them to do that, you have to both be willing to go through that temporary pain in order to win the prize of love, of reigniting your love. That's healing. That's how you heal the relationship. And it's really as simple as that. Now, guys, if you were able to do that from the beginning, anthills wouldn't have turned into mountains. Your paths wouldn't have been started to diverge. Bitterness wouldn't have started accumulating. Those patterns of nagging each other and berating each other and blowing up at little things because there's a mountain of little things or big things behind everything. All that stuff wouldn't have happened. And instead what would have happened is you would have grown deeper and deeper in love with each other. Even if you decided not to stay together, your love would have kept growing. And that's the important part. And because people sometimes still love each other and don't want to be together, that happens too. I'm not saying it's a fairy tale ending where you're riding a white steed into a sunset happily ever after. Life is weird, man. Anything can happen. But if you're being real with each other like that, then your love grows deeper and deeper and deeper. So if you miss the boat the first time around, like I'm saying, you can get it back. And you're going to have a backlog to deal with. And that's okay. It's one of those things where each step can be difficult, but the feeling of coming closer to your goal will keep encouraging you. If there's hurt feelings that have come up that haven't been resolved because the session needs to end for some reason, you reassure the clients that we will get right back to that next time. We will pick up right where we left off. So don't worry, we're gonna deal with that. We're gonna acknowledge it. We're not gonna skip over it. But we just have to wait until it's practical to do this again. But in the meantime, let's connect back with what's true about you two, underneath all the ego and hurts, down into the true land where you love each other. And there's goodness in both of you underneath the pain and the confusion and the miscommunications and sometimes hurtful behavior. But beneath all of that, there's goodness and love. That's what drew you together. That's why you're in session trying to solve your problems. So end on that note. One very, very simple and yet powerful exercise to do is to think of 3 things that you think is amazing about your partner. It's impossible to hold on to the resentment and do this exercise at the same time. And in fact, if you do this exercise, it will open your heart and it will reconnect you, especially if you both do it either way. And no negativity leaking into this. Okay, so you don't get to do a backhanded slap while you're doing the praise thing. Okay, so because people will sometimes try to sneak that in, and that needs to be called out if that happens. You have to start over again. If you're like, well, my partner is such a loving person, I just wish he'd be that way to me more often. That's a backhanded insult. So none of that is allowed. For that moment, you are just talking about what's real, not the illusory. All the pain and the ego is illusory. Okay, we're talking about the core of our being, which is made out of love and connection with all things. The thing we fell in love with, that's the thing we fell in love with in our partner is the real them. We connect with that. We say 3 things that we love. Sometimes you might need 5 things. You look and you wait until you see that the heart is open and the connection is there. And then you remind them we'll pick it up where we left off next session. If you do this, You will heal your relationship. On the scale of your relationship, by not dealing with the ugly stuff, it accumulates on that scale, and it starts carrying more weight in the relationship, and the love and the light and the joy becomes lighter and lighter until there's like nothing on that side of the scale. But when you start taking off the ugly stuff, by talking about it and processing it, then it starts getting lighter and lighter, and the love gets heavier and heavier. I really want to do this opposite, like somehow the love goes up and bigger. But anyway, this is a metaphor, the scale. So the love gets heavier and heavier. That doesn't even sound right. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. That's how you fix a relationship. Both parties have to be willing to do it, to speak the ugly stuff and the good stuff, and to hear the ugly stuff and the good stuff. And that becomes a cycle, and that's just called communication. That's called honest communication. And if we don't have that, then we don't really have a love relationship with somebody. We could still love them, but there's obstacles, there's walls. Love doesn't have walls. We can have boundaries. I do think we have to have boundaries in order for love to flourish. But boundaries is not the same thing as walls. A wall is hiding things. A boundary is open and transparent and clear and communicated well. The more you unpack the darkness, the more room there is for the light. There, that's a better metaphor. Instead of hating each other or resenting each other, you will start to glow with love for each other again, if there is any love left. And sometimes there might not be. Sometimes this process, what it comes to is some person's just, like I said, not willing to reopen. So in that situation, it becomes clear that it's time to separate. And that is also a healing. That is also a win. It's a getting clear that you don't want to be together anymore, and that you're not going to be willing to open your heart and try again. Getting clear on that is way better than not being clear on it for year after year. But if there is still a spark of love between you, by unpacking the darkness, it will cause it to burst into flame again and to glow, and good sex will ensue in this situation because all of your polarity will come back. True intimacy will occur. Give it a try. Maybe you want to do it with a couples counselor. If your couples counselor is not familiar with this method, you could train them in it. You could say, this is what we want to do. Are you willing to hold space for this? Also, check with them before you pay them any money. Are you willing for things to get messy? Is there space in a session with you for us to express some pretty hot emotions? Because we've got some, and we need to be able to express them. Are you cool with that? How do you handle that? We really need to interview our therapists and counselors ahead of time, because a lot of them don't. God bless them, okay? But a lot of them have nary a clue how to actually lead someone into healing. And it's because they haven't done it themselves. They went to a university or a college and sat in a classroom under fluorescent lights, memorizing information and taking tests, and then they got a degree. And now they're healers? No, that's not how healing works. You have to heal yourself in order to learn how to be a healer. And in order to make space in yourself, in your own psychological being, for other people's healing to occur, so that you can hold space for them. You can create a healing container in your sessions with them. A healing container is just you holding awareness and love and boundaries and courage for them to go in and get some surgery accomplished. You have to be willing to do that work for yourselves. And it's a tragedy that our system of mental health care here in the West, in America, doesn't require that of therapists and counselors. That definitely has something to do with the fact that instead of the mental health of Americans getting better and better as the science of psychology has progressed and we've learned more and more about the mind, instead of us getting healthier and healthier on a mental, emotional level, we've only gotten sicker and sicker. The mental health of Americans is abysmal. Just like our relationships, just like our physical health is plummeting. So these things are all interconnected. And in my opinion, it has a lot to do with the for-profit model infiltrating these philosophies of knowledge. Philosophy is love of knowledge. Well, love of money has infiltrated them and perverted them and taken them off course. Just like so many parts of our society. So, and that doesn't get addressed. It needs to be addressed. There's probably a healthy form of capitalism that can work in a healthy way with psychological healing, but we don't have that right now. Anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it, at least until I hear a more convincing story. All the best to you.